I think I'm entitled.
You want answers!
I want the truth!
You can't handle the truth!
This is Larry Connors USA. Larry Connors USA.
I woke up this morning, got myself a gun. Mama always said I'd be the chosen one.
A critical part of the Secret Service mission is protecting our nation's current and former government leaders. The attempted assassination of former President Donald J. Trump on Saturday, July 13th, 2024, in Butler, Pennsylvania, was a failure on multiple levels. Before I begin, though, I want to commend the heroic actions of the men and women of the United States Secret Service on July 13th. Our special agents shielded the former president with their bodies while shots were still being fired, selflessly willing to make the ultimate sacrifice without hesitation. I am extremely proud of these actions and those taken by the counter-sniper team to neutralize the threat that prevented further loss of life. And I applaud the actions of our tactical teams that responded so quickly.
Those are the words of the acting Secret Service Director, Ronald Rowe, Jr. He is, of course, acting director now because Kimberly Cheadle, the director, she resigned, but she was really being shown the door after that debacle that nearly cost the life of President Trump and did kill one, father of two. He's testifying before Congress, or had been testifying before Congress earlier today, a Senate committee. There will be a lot more testimony to come, and we're going to break down a lot of the testimony today and still a lot of questions that are not answered. You cannot begin by holding him directly responsible. I need to make that very clear to you. You cannot begin by holding each and every member of the Secret Service responsible for what happened. There might be individuals that were there that day that can be held accountable for failures, and he also addressed that later. So we've got a lot to cover. Glad to have you with us, and reminding you again that while we're on the air, we are also streaming video for you at News Talk STL Rumble, Facebook, Twitter, and YouTube, or Larry Connors USA, Rumble, Facebook. You're welcome to watch the video at any point. If you miss anything, later you can pull it up and watch it at LarryConnorsUSA.com or Larry Connors USA Facebook. I do have a program note for you. Thursday, the Mike Ferguson Show will be broadcasting live from PJ's Coffee on Highway K in O'Fallon, Missouri. That sounds great. So you can go out and grab some coffee, and some of the Missouri candidates will be showing up, so you'll have a chance to meet them. And if you need more information on the candidates and issues, News Talk STL does have a voter's guide. It's on our News Talk STL homepage. You go to newstalkstl.com/voting resources. newstalkstl.com/voting resources. I voted yesterday. I decided I wanted to vote early in the state of Missouri within 6 weeks or less, I believe, before the election date. You can go vote early without an excuse. You don't need the excuse. You don't need to claim I'm going to be out of town or anything. You just go vote early, avoid the crowds, but more importantly, making sure you get a vote in if something happens, and then you cannot go on the polls on primary day or general election day. So keep that in mind. I did vote early. I encourage you to do the same. Don't use a mail-in ballot. Go there and do it in person. I went in at 4:03. I was out by 4:13. It's that fast. All right, back to the investigation of what happened that nearly led to the death of Donald Trump and to the testimony of the acting Secret Service Director, Ronald Rowe, Jr.
Since my appointment as the acting director 1 week ago, I identified gaps in our security on July 13th and have implemented corrective actions. One of my first actions as acting director was traveling to the Butler Farm Show site to better understand how our protection failed. I went to the roof of the AGR building where the assailant fired shots and I laid in a prone position to evaluate his line of sight. What I saw made me ashamed. As a career law enforcement officer and a 25-year veteran with the Secret Service, I cannot defend why that roof was not better secured. To prevent similar lapses from occurring in the future, I directed our personnel to ensure every event site security plan is thoroughly vetted by multiple experienced supervisors before it is implemented.
And he said that is the way we're going to proceed going forward. That should have been standard operating procedure, SOP. In fact, it probably was, but we've gotten to the point where we're so lax and indifferent. Maybe leadership in the Secret Service, Kimberly Cheadle, simply began to ignore some basic protocol. I'm sure they did not ignore anything when it came to protecting Joe Biden. You know how the leftist media is treating this? They're jumping on it. I'm looking at a piece on CNN right now, and their lead page is focusing on how Chief Justice John Roberts, now 69, about to begin his 20th term, that maybe he should be replaced, and the Supreme Court appears to be reaching a turning point. And, of course, Biden yesterday called for major Supreme Court reforms, including term limits. That was their big focus. Oh, yeah, they did mention the shooting, but here's the way they look at it. The shooter may have posted anti-Semitic and anti-immigration posts online, according to the FBI. Not actually what the Secret Service director is testifying to on why things went so bad. But they quickly got into the fact that this shooter might have posted anti-Semitic and anti-immigration posts. Now, anti-immigration posts, he must be a Trumpite, doesn't want all these illegals in the country. I think any sane American doesn't want more illegals in the country. Anti-Semitic, well, that's calling out the woke crowd because they're all supporting Palestinian and Hamas, right? So the director said, we have noted flaws and we're going to be making some changes.
It is clear to me that other protective enhancements could have strengthened our security at the Butler event. As such, I have directed the expanded use of unmanned aerial systems at protective sites to help detect threats on roofs and other elevated threats. I've also directed resources to facilitate our protective site communications, particularly our communications with our state and local partners. In addition, I have instructed the asset request for Secret Service protective details to be approved expeditiously and have ordered the maximum use of requested personnel at protective sites to address this heightened security environment. I've heard your calls for accountability, and I take them very seriously. And given the magnitude of this failure, the Secret Service's Office of Professional Responsibility is reviewing the actions and decision-making of Secret Service personnel in the lead up to and on the day of the attack. If this investigation reveals that Secret Service employees violated agency protocols, those employees will be held accountable to our disciplinary process.
Good. If they did do some violations, which even they know through their training were violation, unless instructed by a superior, those guys should be held responsible. And if superiors overlook their responsibilities and allow these lapses, they should be held accountable. I like everything I heard from him today, if they follow through with it. But then, of course, we have a lot of conspiracy questions still circulating. And again, the acting Secret Service director responded to that issue.
That based on what I know right now, neither the Secret Service counter-sniper teams nor members of the former president's security detail had any knowledge that there was a man on the roof of the AGR building with a firearm. It is my understanding those personnel were not aware the assailant had a firearm until they heard gunshots. Prior to that, they were operating with the knowledge that local law enforcement was working an issue of a suspicious individual prior to the shots being fired. I regret that information was not passed to Congress and the public sooner with greater frequency. And I fear this lack of information has given rise to multiple false and dangerous conspiracy theories about what took place that day. And I want to debunk these theories. Let me address one conspiracy directly. The Secret Service counter-sniper neutralized the assailant within seconds after the assailant fired his weapon. That counter-sniper had full discretion to use deadly force to stop an attacker and did not need to seek authorization to fire.
I do not think that's going to answer all the conspiracy questions. And at the same time, there are issues about text messages being lost, not being forwarded, not on the same channel of communications. But again, on behalf and in somewhat defense of the acting Secret Service director, he said, based on what I know now, he's still deeply diving into it. We're going to have more on the acting director's testimony and other details from the attempted assassination coming up in our second hour. But in the presidential race, while Vice President Harris and the leftists want to deny she was a border czar, she does own Joe Biden's record of opening the border. She went along with it, and she wants more illegals. Illegals who threaten America, Americans, their families, our national security.
It is every damn day. Every day, someone is being shot. Every day, a woman is being raped. Every day, a child is being assaulted by illegal immigrants that Joe Biden and Kamala Harris have released. And every one of our families are at greater jeopardy because they keep releasing violent criminals into our communities. And I'm going to say something that sounds harsh, but Kamala Harris, Joe Biden, my opponent, Colin Allred, they do not care. Now, why do I say that? Because if they cared, they would change the policies that are making this happen. They would stop today releasing another illegal who's going to kill someone tomorrow. And they keep doing it day after day after day. So when someone is killed, when a child is assaulted, they say, I care. I'm so sorry about it. But no, they don't if they keep recreating the problem.
And I agree fully with him. And I reiterate the question I would ask Joe Biden if I had a chance to. Mr. President, knowing how many children have been illegally trafficked into this country and knowing that many of them are now missing, how can you sleep at night? How can you sleep at night? Imagining what those children have been through and are going through now, assuming they're still alive. Senator Cruz says the reason they continue to push is very simple.
The only reason they will not change it, listen, we've had 11.5 million illegal immigrants enter under Joe Biden and Kamala Harris. Kamala wants that 11.5 million to be 20 million, to be 30 million, to be 40 million, because she looks at them as future Democrat voters. And it is the most cynical transaction. They want votes and they want power. And if our children have to be at risk, if our family have to be at jeopardy, they're willing to make that trade-off. And I got to say, in terms of public safety, that and the threat of terrorism for open border, I think those are the most compelling issues on the ballot in November.
They are. And in November, we're now less than 100 days away from that election. Harris and her future running mate plan to visit battleground states all next week. They're going to be trying to do that. At the same time, Harris is going to make a high-profile visit to Georgia on Tuesday, hosting an Atlanta rally, pushing for a state that they believe is now back in play for Democrats. Republican J.D. Vance, Vice P nominee, will deliver remarks at 2 rallies in Nevada. So it's all beginning to heat up. But one thing about Harris, I don't care what she says, I don't care how she goes out, I don't care how they plan to picture her, all smiley, no giggling or cackling. They'll probably try to avoid that. But try to focus on how presidential she is. She, by her own admission, has some issues that we should find great issue with.
And yeah, I am radical. I do believe that we need to get radical about what we are doing and take it seriously.
I intend to fight for a state that has the largest number of immigrants, documented and undocumented, of any state in this country, and do everything we can to bring them justice and dignity and fairness under the law and pass comprehensive immigration reform. Bring them out from under the shadows.
Does that sound like something you want in your state? She plans for every state to do that? Is that the leader you want of this country going forward? Even Democrats are turned away by that. It's only the progressive regressives or regressive progressives are one and the same that are all in favor of it and will continue to push it. And they think that's a selling message. And they're going to count on all those illegal votes actually showing up at the polls. Now, they've been told if you vote illegally, you could be deported. Wink, wink. We may or may not deport you. Now, before this hour is over, Harris and the leftist radical views are being exposed as to what the great replacement theory truly is. They're trying it in this country. We're seeing it already in Europe. We do have that story coming up later in this hour. But coming up next, Harris, of course, continues to run on one main issue. She's running on, I'm going to take care of you, I'm going to protect you, we're going to make more states homes for illegals, and we're going to make room for more illegals, and they're going to call them migrants, but they're illegal in the way they're coming in. And they're going to continue to expand because she says, that's what I want to do. She said, I admit I'm a radical, and we're going to get radical. We're going to get radical in pushing back. But there's one issue that she's really pushing on. That's abortion. My next guest is ready to fight back. Lock and load. Ready on the right.
You are listening to Larry Connors, USA.
My sponsor, Wellington Environmental, has helped thousands deal with hazardous materials. Hospitals, offices, schools, even homes. Here's something new. Wellington now offers dustless blasting. This is just like sandblasting, but without all the dust and emissions. Wellington uses everything from ground glass, walnuts, corn, even dry ice pellets. One university had Wellington remove their parking lot striping because dustless blasting is fast and it does not damage the concrete. So as a business or homeowner, I'm sure you could use this process. Industrial tanks, swimming pools, graffiti on buildings. And in fact, Wellington is blasting a Texaco station that will be revised as an historic building. Check the website for details and photos. WellingtonSTL.com. WellingtonSTL.com.
Tim Jones and Chris Arps in the afternoon.
Horace, Americans individually have lost over $4,000 in income and over $7,000 where you have a household with both parents working.
It shouldn't be, it's the economy stupid. We should just say, stupid! It's the economy. Unbelievable the devastation that Americans are feeling.
Tim Jones and Chris Arps, weekdays at 3:30 on News Talk STL.
If you haven't been to Lit Cigar Lounge in the district at Chesterfield, you're missing a great experience. Premium cigars, drinks, spacious seating, TVs in every direction. This and more explain why Lit was voted Best Cigar Lounge 2 years in a row. Now you can be at Lit and order Napoli Brothers pizza and pasta delivered to you. In fact, Napoli's just a few doors down. A coal-fired oven giving a unique taste. Napoli Brothers Pizza and Pasta, now open in the Chesterfield district.
Are you thinking about buying medicine online? A search for online pharmacies yields more than 20 million results. But which ones can you trust? Medicines bought from unlicensed online pharmacies can be dangerous. You may get a fake drug, your condition may get worse, or you may experience a bad reaction. Don't put your health at risk. To learn how to find an online pharmacy that's safe and legal, visit fda.gov/BeSafeRx. A message from the U.S. Food and Drug Administration.
Great news for my sponsor, Napoli C. And it's no surprise to me nor hundreds who have dined there. The first time I entered, it was clear Napoli C is unique. The decor, the fish, imaginative cocktails, and of course Napoli C is right next door to Napoli 3 in St. Charles. Napoli 2 is in Town and Country. The original Cafe Napoli is in Clayton. and I'm honored to endorse each of them. Visit any of the Cafe Napolis.
This is News Talk STL. This is Larry Connors USA. Larry Connors USA.
Welcome back. The New York Times reporting that VP Harris is doing a flip-flop on some of her major issues. Apparently, according to the New York Times, talking to some of the campaign officials in the Harris camp, she now supports fracking, trying to buy her way back into oil and gas companies and oil and gas states. They're going to be swing states, possibly. She wants to increase funding for the border when I don't know what that means. I mean, they've already wanted to increase. I want to see them close the border. Third point, she does not want to require you to sell any, quote, assault weapon back to the government. What's an assault weapon? And 4, no longer supports a single-payer health insurance program. Okay, flip-flop, flip-flop, flip-flop. But my next guest pointed out in a tweet over the weekend, no presidential candidate, pro-life or pro-abortion, has ever run with abortion as their number one issue. That was from Sean Carney, president, CEO of 40 Days for Life. Sean, welcome aboard. Add to that point.
Good to be back.
Add to that point about this, no candidate has ever run basically as abortion is going to be my number one issue.
Yeah, either pro-life or pro-abortion candidate. No one's ever done it. The Republicans have kind of tucked it, back and said, yeah, I'm pro-life and I'm against late-term abortion. That was certainly the stance of, George Bush Sr. really avoided it. He was fairly useless on abortion. But that was Bush's approach. Clinton didn't run on abortion. He wanted to bury it because he was a pro-life governor. And he became pro-abortion, and that's where he came up with the phrase safe, legal, and rare, and he ran on that, and then he got away from it. And certainly Trump didn't run on it. Obama didn't run on it. It is Kamala's number one issue, and we've just never seen that. She may be successful. I don't think she is, but I think they are overestimating abortion as an issue to voters. On the pro-life front, it's one of the largest single-issue voter constituencies. So the pro-lifers will come out if they want to for Trump. But I just don't know if running around and talking about how great abortion is a positive winning message.
Yeah, and not only that, celebrating. When a woman has an abortion, they sometimes are holding little celebrations for killing a baby. Now, the Republican convention, when it came to their platform, primarily written by Donald Trump, they did not focus on this issue. What's your reaction to that?
I think that was a political move, and they don't really have to focus on it. I would have, as a pro-lifer, wanted to hear more about it. But they're politicians. I understood why they did it, and there's a lot of other things. It's like the sixth issue for Democrats when they're polled. I mean, the immigration crisis, taxes, obviously these wars that are going on, that's what's on people's minds. And so I don't think it was a huge part of the platform in 2020. They had a former abortion worker, my friend Abby Johnson, speak. I mean, that was huge. That had never been done. So
Trump was the first president to ever visit a pro-life rally at the Capitol.
Yeah, he was the first president to show up and speak at the March for Life. It was awesome. I was there, and it, that's all great. So he's by far the most pro-life president in our history based on his record alone. So I don't think they were avoiding it. I just think that they were giving attention to other issues that are on people's minds. I think the Democrats will just be one big pro-abortion rally, and I think that's why you see Kamala shifting on these issues that you wisely brought up. Is that you can run out and say, we're going to have abortion up to 40 weeks and we're not apologizing, and the pro-choice people will cheer, but then they're also like, hey, you're going to close the border, right? Or are we not going to have any, I live in Pennsylvania. You're going to cut down on fracking? I mean, they care about these other issues.
Sure.
and the polling for immigration is through the roof. And I'm a Texan. It's delightful to see, like, it's the number one issue in Michigan. You know, I mean, that's phenomenal. Yeah. So, I just think she's not a very substantive person.
Well, I'm sorry, Sean. Are you belittling Harris? I mean, Gretchen Whitmer, governor of Michigan, said she's got more experience than Vance and Trump together.
Yeah, no, sure, why not? Say whatever you want. You know, it's just kind of like, and I'm getting drafted number 1 in the NFL draft. So it's just they're just kind of rattling this stuff off, but no one's ever run on abortion, and I don't think it's just not as big of a deal to people, unfortunately.
Do they think it's going to be a replication of 2022 midterm because Roe v. Wade had been so close to that midterm, and she being a woman, I'm protecting women's rights unless you're a woman in the womb? Yeah, they think so. And what they forget is there were 3 people that won in landslides that ran on being very strong. They didn't primarily run on it, but they were very strong pro-life governors who didn't run from it, and that was Greg Abbott, DeSantis, and Kemp. They won by huge margins in 2022. Dr. Oz, who somehow was the candidate in PA, what a stupid thing they did up there. But you know, he avoided abortion the whole time, and he lost, and he should have. He ran a terrible campaign. He was basically a celebrity that was running for Senate. So the issues don't lose elections. Candidates do. Well, we've had so. I'm sorry, you and I have had this discussion before, and I'm sensing, and I'm sure you're going to correct me, but I'm sensing that, you know, you had reached previously, we don't yield. We're not going to do anything to get a vote. We're going to stand. And I know you're not changing your stance, but you're acknowledging if you don't win the office, you don't have a chance to change anything. So you will. Politics has to bend.
Well, politics is always bending, and yes, I believe that. I believe if Trump gets into office, he is going to deliver federally on abortion. I do so. I'm ignoring everything else he says until then.
All right. And federal, you want a federal abortion ban?
Well, ultimately, we don't need a federal abortion ban. What we need is to just recognize that the unborn are already recognized in the 14th Amendment. And that's what's going to happen long term. I think that it needs to be the long term goal of the pro-life movement.
Yeah, we just took away abortion as law of the land, being a national issue. I mean, basically sanctioned by federal law. So I think, will you give me your read? How many pro-lifers really want to go back that route as opposed to leaving it to the states?
I think most pro-lifers want the unborn to be recognized under the 14th Amendment because that's the biological reality. And right. I think what will happen is the Supreme Court returned it to the states. Trump didn't. The Supreme Court did. And so only Thomas wanted to go back to the 14th Amendment. So what will happen is we're going to have a decade or decades of it being in the states, and you have basically back to free states and slave states. So you're recognized and protected under the law in Texas and Tennessee and Florida and 25 states total, but you're not in California. You can be discarded, and that inconsistency won't last over the long haul.
All
and
right.
It shouldn't.
Sean Carney, President and CEO of 40 Days for Life. I appreciate your time. We do want to have you back because this story is going to continue to escalate.
Yes. Thank you for having me.
You bet, Sean. Appreciate it. Yeah, the many who are pro-life, they recognize, even Speaker Tim Jones with Jones and Arps earlier, our program preceding this, he's strongly against abortion as a Catholic, but admits you have to play the political game first if you're going to have any sway whatsoever, and I tend to agree. Coming up, the great replacement theory, as it really is, and Louisiana Senator Kennedy calls out VP Harris for what she is.
You can connect with Larry on Twitter at Larry Connors USA.
John Beal knows that right after a hailstorm, new roofing companies start popping up everywhere. But the Small Business Administration reports 96% of them go out of business within the first 5 years. So how good is that warranty? John Beal started in the roofing business helping his granddad and his dad. Always offering the best roof, best price, best guarantee. John Beal Roofing, not some fly-by-the-night operation. Call my friend John, 1-800-NEW-ROOF, 1-800-NEW-ROOF.
The United States Deputy Sheriff's Association is a national nonprofit and the largest non-governmental provider of services to law enforcement. The USDSA assists city, county, state, and federal agencies with free safety equipment donations and officer survival training, along with cash donations to families of law enforcement officers who perished in the line of duty, a citizen awareness program, and more. For more information on United States Deputy Sheriff's Association, please visit usdeputy.org.
Loyalty means a lot at J. Ackerman Toyota. That's why during COVID, Ackerman refused to charge over sticker price, while others did. Ackerman stayed true to their customers, selling at or below manufacturer-suggested prices. Ackerman will get you what you want, and the service department has the same spirit. You come first. And thank you for making Ackerman Toyota number one in 2023. Ackerman Toyota, AckermanToyota.com. Ackerman Toyota for life.
News, analysis, opinion.
USA, USA. That's a big game, man.
He's really losing control.
People in China have been nasty about people mowing each other down in the mall.
This is News Talk STL.
It is their responsibility.
He is a metastasizing agent.
We're all keeping a close eye on this.
Illegal immigration is crazy right now.
The United States is not being overrun.
News Talk STL.
It is a crisis at the border without question.
At newstalkstl.com.
Here's some expert advice from McGuire Moving and Storage. If you have a home or business move coming up, you need to book now. Most moving companies are booked 6 to 8 weeks out. So call McGuire now, get an on-site estimate, set a date. McGuire has 85 years of experience and just won the Spire Quality Award. I can personally testify McGuire goes above and beyond to help the clients. McGuire Moving and Storage, McGuireMoving.com.
This is News Talk STL.
Well, they used to make a living off a bathtub gin. When the hippie showed up, the weed was in. Well, they profit off of weakness, and they always have. Now meth is a recipe for cold hard cash. Something's cooking and it just ain't right. Hell's Kitchen gonna burn tonight.
This is Larry Connors USA. Larry Connors USA.
Amsterdam currently consists of 56% migrants. The Hague, 58% migrants. Rotterdam, almost 60% migrants. And of course, most of these immigrants come from non-Christian, non-Western, African and Middle Eastern countries. Conclusion, the Dutch population is already outnumbered in the majority of our cities. But let's look onwards. London, 54% migrants. Again, conclusion, native population outnumbered. Brussels, color me shocked, 70% migrants. Conclusion, native population majorly outnumbered. And other Europeans will, of course, follow suit soon if they haven't already.
That is a white woman speaking at the Hungary CPAC. And what they were in the process of doing is examining the Great Replacement Theory. Now, there are a lot of stories around what it is and what it isn't. According to the left, it's a far-right dog whistle for racism. In other words, get rid of all the colored people, the minority people, only white supremacists, kind of like, yes, they're going to rush right into Adolf Hitler and, of course, link Trump to it. This CPAC gathering and her statements was not talking about changing based upon race nor religion. It was simply stating the very populace that made up that nation, its citizens, and they might have been immigrants at one point, but had become citizens, like many in our nation. Our nation is made entirely of immigrants, except for indigenous American Indians. We're entirely immigrant, one way or the other. But you are now a U.S. citizen. They want to replace, based upon what you were hearing and the numbers in Brussels, Hungary, and The Hague, basically overpopulate your own nation with people from other countries. In other words, you're no longer in control of your own country. Very much like what we're seeing happen with the illegal immigration that VP Harris and the leftist regressive progressives have continued to push down our throat. This is not just a matter about votes. This is a matter about taking your country away from you. Now, if these people are coming here to be part of the U.S. and bring their culture, their music, their ethnicity, and all the great attributes many cultures have, that's great. Again, that is why we're such a melting pot and why we draw so many. And they love their freedoms, their liberties, their independence. But what she was referring to is the countries in Europe, how they gradually are being not taking in people that will assimilate with them, but take over their nation. It will no longer be their nation. Those citizens of Brussels will no longer really have the largest number of citizenship. That should scare you. It should scare you in so many ways that you think, well, wait a minute, I mean, how would this happen? Well, it is happening, and it happens over a long period of time, and at the rate this administration has been going the last 4 years, they've accelerated that number, accelerated considerably. In this nation, if an illegal is here and the woman bears a child, men cannot bear children, for those of you who still question that. The woman bears a child and is born in this nation, they are automatically a U.S. citizen. And that is one way for the family to have ties to the U.S. We have documented numerous times previously, before the Biden-Harris group came in even, how many Russian oligarchs and others from various wealthy areas and families, nations, would come to the U.S. if they were pregnant, stay in Miami and some of the plush hotels right up to delivery, so the baby is born here and the baby is now a U.S. citizen. Then they go back to their country and the child holds dual passport. But that gives them an inroad back into the nation. That's why there's talk about we should do away with that. We should do away with simply being born in America makes you an American. There are mixed feelings on both sides, and rightly so about that. But again, back to what she is trying to present at this conference, how these nations that thought they were going to bring folks in to assimilate with them are finding they're suddenly, if not outnumbered, very close to being outnumbered. And then she suggests, flip that and look at it from the other direction.
So I'm going to draw the forbidden conclusion here. The Great Replacement theory is no longer a theory. It's reality. And what's interesting about replacement is that the establishment will either deny its existence, or when they admit to it, they say that it's a good thing that the native European population is soon no longer a majority on its own continent. Dutch national disgrace and dubbed climate pope Frans Timmermans already stated in 2015 that diversity is humanity's destiny and that Europe will be diverse. And of course, by now, I think we all know what they mean with the words diversity. It means less white people, less of you. Imagine this in an Asian or an African country. Imagine their leaders rejoicing in the fact that their people will soon no longer be a majority in their own country. Absolutely unthinkable, unimaginable. So what in the world is wrong with our leaders?
What is wrong with our leaders? They're buying into this bunk. But she's right. What if nations in Africa were suddenly replaced by another nation's population? And so suddenly those in Nigeria, Sudan, they're no longer the leaders of their country. They're outpopulated by great replacement theory. Now, the great replacement theory began officially with as exposed by a French author, Renaud Comas. I assume that's correct spelling or pronunciation. He was dealing with demographic cultural replacement by non-white peoples, especially from Muslim majority countries, through mass migration. And, of course, since then, we've seen it emphasize reference to the U.S. as it's a push to keep America white. That is not at all what it is. His book was associating the presence of Muslims in France with danger and destruction of French culture and civilization. Do we as Americans want to lose our culture and our civilization? For many who come here, they want to be an American and everything that comes with it. They do bring their different religions, their ethnicity, their culture, their music. All of that is a plus for us. But we don't want to replace our nation with people from another country. And yet that's what this administration has been doing, hasn't it? And they want to claim that Trump wants to basically make America all white. He's never said anything like that. Not once. But what they're whispering, and sometimes saying more blatantly, we want control of your nation. Louisiana Senator Ted Kennedy made a remark about VP Harris. And Fox Business News anchor Neil Cavuto did not like it. Do not expect Senator Kennedy to back down. That story when we continue.
You are listening to Larry Connors, USA.
You want to give someone something which they will really enjoy? Give them a Cafe Napoli gift card. You pick the amount. They pick which of the Cafe Napolis they want to visit. Cafe Napoli in Clayton, Cafe Napoli in Town and Country, Napoli 3 on the streets of St. Charles, or right next door, Napoli C. The Napoli gift card. It's the perfect gift for anyone or your entire office. Cafe Napoli. Cafe Napoli.
This is Larry Connors, USA. Larry Connors, USA.
I'm telling you what I think the American people think right now, based on the polling that I've seen. And let me say it again. I think that fair or not, and it may upset you, but fair or not, the American people think, those who have an opinion of the vice president, think that, number one, she's a little bit of a ding-dong. She's not a serious person. They've had one vegetable in chief. They don't want another. And they also think that she is a member of the loon wing of the Democratic Party. She's a San Francisco Democrat. She believes in abortion on demand. She believes that Israel should just give the Palestinians anything that they want. She believes in an open border. She thinks criminals or cops are a bigger problem than criminals. She's proud of what she and the president did in Afghanistan. She believes in our national security strength through weakness, that if we just sit down with our enemies and have a cup of hot cocoa and give them a hug, that they'll be nice to us.
Well, Neil Cavuto responded in saying, Senator Kennedy, I I don't think you should be calling VP Harris a ding-dong. I'll suggest another word. Dingbat, same thing. No, not as in Archie Bunker, as he was referring to his wife. But Kennedy fired back at Cavuto and saying, basically, you don't like the term? Well, that's what she is. And Cavuto is saying, I don't think, sir, that you can win an election by calling people names. Now, to that point, he's right, and yet he's not, because that's exactly what the left has been doing to the right continuously. And yes, Donald Trump does that as well to his opponents, calling them names. But Cavuto just continued to insist, I don't think that's correct. I don't think you should do that. And then he said, thank you for being with us, Senator. Kennedy said, thanks for having me. I hope you have a good day. My boots-on-the-ground correspondent in Chicago sent me something regarding some stories I'd been hearing about Harris that I'd not found documentation for. This is from the Union publication based out of Grass Valley, California, just north of Sacramento. It was written by an editor, or rather a member of the Union editorial board, Terry McAteer. And he's talking about Harris and her past. He said, our son, Gregory, loves politics. I thought it might also be his passion. So I helped him get a non-paid internship with Senator Feinstein in her San Francisco office. But they weren't able to get her start, so Attorney General Harris was looking for summer interns, so he moved over there. He said Gregory had an eye-opening experience. For his sake, the month could not pass soon enough, and he was able to move over to Feinstein's office. According to Gregory, his son, and he said he showed him this article, and he signed off on everything, said, Dad, that's exactly right. Harris vocally throwing around F-bombs, other profanity, constantly berating staff and others. Trump may be doing the same. I'm not saying he's not. I'm just telling you what this points out. As Attorney General, though, Harris instructed her entire staff to stand every morning as she entered the office and say, Good morning, General. And never once during the month-long internship did Harris introduce herself. He said to my son, he was in an office with 20 other employees, and the staff was too intimidated by her to even introduce them. The only acknowledgement he got from Harris was a letter of thanks signed by him on his last day of service. Gregory was also given instructions to never address Harris nor look her in the eye, as that privilege was only allowed to senior staff members. Now, again, that is a story as told by a son who is an editor of the Union editorial board, the Union publication, Grass Valley, California, north of Sacramento. But I've heard similar stories from others. This is the first time I've seen it put down and documented. And again, the writer said, I ran this by my son again. And he said, Dad, that's exactly right. I'm free to stand beside it, and I will do so. Harris, how do you respond? Coming up, the acting Secret Service director and more on possible conspiracy theories. Remember our pledge, one nation under God.
You can hear podcasts of this program at Larry Connors USA Facebook. Larry Connors USA Facebook.
If you like premium cigars and spirits, take my advice. Check out Lit Cigar Lounge in Chesterfield. The Lit Cigar owners just got back from a major convention in Vegas, and now every day, Lit is getting shipments of special cigars that will certainly amaze you. Check the Lit Cigar Facebook, staying on top of special events. Also, Lit can host a private event for you, your friends, your business. LitSTL.com. LitSTL.com. Lit Cigar Lounge in Chesterfield.
News, analysis, opinion.
USA, USA. That's a big game, man.
President Xi is really losing control.
People in China didn't ask me about people mowing each other down in a mall.
This is News Talk STL.
It is their responsibility.
He is a metastasizing agent.
We're all keeping a close eye on this.
Illegal immigration is crazy right now.
This United States is not being overrun.
News Talk STL.
It is a crisis at the border without question.
At newstalkstl.com. Talk radio made in St. Louis.
Very excited for what you guys are doing for the St. Louis community.
For St. Louis.
Relevant local talk.
Saying what we are thinking.
This is News Talk STL.
You guys are awesome. I love you. And it's a tremendous honor to be on the station.
News, analysis, and opinion.
Thanks for covering the local angle.
People, this is America.
We better open our eyes.
Really local, really good.
News Talk STL at 1019, 94.1 and newstalkstl.com.
Are you thinking about buying medicine online? A search for online pharmacies yields more than 20 million results. But which ones can you trust? Medicines bought from unlicensed online pharmacies can be dangerous. You may get a fake drug, your condition may get worse, or you may experience a bad reaction. Don't put your health at risk. To learn how to find an online pharmacy that's safe and legal, visit fda.gov/BeSafeRx. A message from the U.S. Food and Drug Administration.
Tony Colombo here, reminding you to join us for the Bluff City Outdoors radio show and podcast, where we talk fishing, hunting, camping, and everything else involving the great outdoors. Brought to you by Bluff City Outdoors in Alton, the Bluff City Outdoors Show, Saturdays at 11 a.m. right here on News Talk STL.
No matter how large or small your digging project may be, no matter how urban or rural, you must always call 811 before any digging project. 811 is our national one-call number, alerting your local utility companies to come out and mark any lines they have near your dig site. So before you do this or this, make sure you do this. For digging projects big or small, make the call to 811. Brought to you by Common Ground Alliance.
Hey, it's Katie, reminding you to subscribe to our show podcast so you never miss anything that happens here at News Talk STL. Get our podcasts every day on the show pages at newstalkstl.com, or just subscribe to your favorite shows on Spotify, Apple, Google, Amazon, or anywhere else you get your podcasts.
I drive my bus in a busy city. That's why road safety is so important to me. I know that I must slow down and be extra careful when I make a wide turn. Buses need more room than cars. Everyone can help keep our roads safe. Next time you're driving, remember to give buses plenty of time and space to finish turning before driving ahead. Let's all plan to share the road safely. Learn how at www.sharetheroadsafely.gov.
So many ways to listen to News Talk STL.
Come join the conversation. All you have to do is say,
Hey Alexa, play News Talk STL.
Welcome to News Talk STL, conservative talk radio for St. Louis.
No matter how large or small your digging project may be, no matter how urban or rural, you must always call 811 before any digging project. 811 is our national one-call number, alerting your local utility companies to come out and mark any lines they have near your dig site. So before you do this or this, make sure you do this. For digging projects big or small, make the call to 811. Brought to you by Common Ground Alliance.
If you find yourself feeling out of place in the world, it's comforting to know conservative values haven't been abandoned everywhere.
The far left wants to destroy conservative values in America.
This is News Talk STL. Welcome home.
Hey, it's Nick Schroer. To preserve this nation, to preserve the experiment and liberty that our founders envisioned, we must take a stand and fight. Join me Sunday nights at 8 p.m. only on News Talk STL.
Stand and fight with Nick Schroer. Brought to you by Missouri Wild Alchemy at MissouriWild.com. This is News Talk STL.
You want answers? I think I'm entitled. You want answers? I want the truth! You can't handle the truth!
This is Larry Connors USA. Larry Connors USA.
I woke up this morning, got myself a gun. Mama always said I'd be the chosen one.
Somehow we came within under of an inch
of a presidential candidate being shot and killed within 100 days out from an election. And when you look at it, I just want to be really clear, because there is a lot of this. There is no evidence of another shooter, right?
Another shooter.
Yeah.
I mean, there's the counter sniper who took out the shooter.
Well,
right. But you're talking about like another.
Anybody else. And you're looking at his online and seeing all that, but there's no evidence he had any other accomplices on scene that day, correct?
Correct. Not that we've seen yet, certainly.
That is North Dakota Congressman Kelly Armstrong raising questions of the Secret Service as to what you know and what you don't know so far. And that question, he was actually questioning FBI Director Wray from the other day. And today we have the acting Secret Service Director testifying earlier today before Congress, before the Senate. And the testimony will continue, obviously, because there's a lot yet to be unveiled. But the North Dakota congressman was making clear that you have no other evidence of another shooter. Is that correct? There are a lot of conspiracy theories going around. And today, the acting Secret Service Director, like I said, did address some of those concerns. And we're going to hear him specifically on that coming up a little bit later. Let me begin by welcoming you aboard. This is hour number 2 of Larry Connors USA. Here we are, July 30, 2024. I have a reminder for you that you can watch us. You can watch the program. How do you do that? You go to News Talk STL Rumble, Facebook, Twitter, or YouTube. Or Larry Connors USA, Rumble, or Facebook. And when you do, I see more and more of you doing it, and I appreciate it. Push like, because that makes the internet gods so upset that we continue to gain more and more momentum because of your likes. And then when you share with others, that's another important part. And if you miss anything, remember, when we finish the program, we put it up as a podcast for you at LarryConnorsUSA.com or Larry Connors USA Facebook. Also, a program note for you, Thursday, the Mike Ferguson Morning Show will be held at PJ's Coffee on Highway K in O'Fallon, Missouri. So Mike Ferguson in the morning with Gabe and Stell. The show will be going direct from PJ's Coffee on Highway K in O'Fallon, Missouri. And some of the candidates will be stopping by. You'll have a chance to meet with them and talk to Mike and Gabe and Stell if he's not running the studio from here. And we also want to remind you, we have a voter's guide for you posted at News Talk STL on our homepage. You go to newstalkstl.com/voters decision, and it'll take you right to it. As I'd mentioned in the first hour, I voted yesterday. You are now allowed to vote without any excuse at this point, this close to the election. I did it. I went in at 4:03. I'm out by 4:13. That is how fast it is. You do have to declare if you want a Republican, Democrat, Independent ballot. I was thinking I should have asked for an independent ballot just to see who all and what all is on that one as opposed to just the Republican ballot. And yes, I, no surprise, asked for the Republican ballot. And I will admit to you that in the past, I really detested primaries because you had to make that admission when I was a news anchor. I didn't want folks to know my political beliefs or leanings. Those who knew me and were around me, they knew what I was and what I thought. But for the massive on-air audience, no, nor should they. It should not be important to them because I'm delivering factual news. This program is not a news program. This is named after a great guy, Larry Connors. Well, certainly a great country, USA. Larry Connors USA is a commentary mixed with facts and news, and I always give you the facts, and I give you sources for it so you can check them out. It's in my DNA to always make sure you get correct information. So today we had the acting director of the Secret Service, of course, appointed to that position because of the foul-up that happened with Kimberly Cheadle when she basically left President Trump exposed. So Acting Director Ronald Rowe Jr. was testifying, and he said, it didn't take me long to realize there were a lot of flaws that day.
Since my appointment as the acting director 1 week ago, I identified gaps in our security on July 13th and have implemented corrective actions. One of my first actions as acting director was traveling to the Butler Farm Show site to better understand how our protection failed. I went to the roof of the AGR building where the assailant fired shots, and I laid in a prone position to evaluate his line of sight. What I saw made me ashamed. As a career law enforcement officer and a 25-year veteran with the Secret Service, I cannot defend why that roof was not better secured. To prevent similar lapses from occurring in the future, I directed our personnel to ensure every event site security plan is thoroughly vetted by multiple experienced supervisors before it is implemented.
As it should be. SOP, standard operating procedure. But take note of the fact. Now, you might say, well, he did it because he saw that Kimberly Cheadle, the Secret Service director before him, got chastised in front of Congress, admitting that she had not gone to the site after the shooting. No, I didn't bother going. I mean, why should I have to go? It's all over with. To his credit, and yes, maybe he did it because he knew he might be questioned about it, or he wanted to reinforce his desire to make sure I'm checking on everything. The acting director, Ronald Rowe Jr., went to the site, climbed up on the roof, and got in the same position the shooter had to see what was in front of him. I think that was an excellent point, whether it was done for simply good testimony, but it had to be done. Should have been done by Cheadle. She didn't bother. I want you to hear from a former FBI agent, of course now retired, Bobby Chacon.
If you read those text messages, the lack of urgency is incredible. If you want to notify Secret Service snipers like it's a casual thing, you've got a guy with a rangefinder, you've got a presidential candidate about to take the stage. There should have been much more urgency, and there should have been a plan in place to deal with contingencies like these. I put plans together for events like the Olympics and the Oscars and things like that. You have contingencies, and everything is spelled out exactly what should happen if any of those contingencies take place. If you've got a guy inside your perimeter with a rangefinder, I mean, you have to take immediate action to address that potential threat. And the lack of urgency here on all involved is absolutely incredible.
Well, this goes deeper. One of the local SWAT police officers shared how the U.S. Secret Service also, well, had a lot less to do with what was going on in terms of communications than we thought.
We were supposed to get a face-to-face briefing with the Secret Service snipers whenever they arrived, and that never happened. So I think that was probably a pivotal point where I started thinking things were wrong, because that never happened. And we had
with the Secret Service at all on that Saturday.
Not until after the shooting.
Until after the shooting. That's part of Harris Faulkner's program on Fox News. Bobby Chacon talking about the issues as a retired agent he saw, and then her pointing out that others, state and local officials, had no real contact and briefing with Secret Service. We're going to get into that in more detail. And again, the acting Secret Service director addressing conspiracy theories. That'll be coming up later in this hour. I'm not sure that his remarks are going to put to rest some of the conspiracy theories that are going around. I'll point that out to you right now. But I think you're going to need to hear his remarks and you make your own determination. That'll be coming up shortly. But first, Vice President Harris wants to campaign on her record of fighting crime.
You know, you can talk to so-called progressive prosecutors around the nation, especially those who've been elected in the last decade, and they will tell you that at one time or another they looked to what Kamala Harris was doing as a model of what could be done. In fact, the Obama Justice Department designated my work years and years and years ago as a model of innovation.
A model of innovation. which meant soft on crime. Of course, to some extent, she was locking up a lot of marijuana users, mostly minority, locking a lot of black men in particular up. So that's one thing where she could point out that I was tough on crime, but she doesn't want to brag on that now, especially when later she helped lead campaign donations to a Minnesota fund to get people out of jail if they were arrested for looting and arson, with all the rioting that was taking place up in that state. But here's a gathering of numerous times Harris has talked about how great she is when it comes to dealing with crime.
You know, for far too long, the status quo thinking has been to believe that by putting more police on the street, you're going to have more safety. And that's just wrong.
Does that mean you support proposals like what we've seen in Los Angeles, Mayor Eric Garcetti saying, take some of the money from policing, about $150 million?
I applaud Eric Garcetti for doing what he's done. It is outdated, it is wrong-headed thinking to think that the only way you're going to get communities to be safe is to put more police officers on the street. We have to reimagine public safety and how we do public safety in our country.
One local radio show asked then-Senator Kamala Harris where she stood on the defund the police movement.
Defund the police. The issue behind it is that we need to reimagine how we are creating safety. And when you have many cities that have 1/3 of their entire city budget focused on policing, we know that is not the smart way and the best way or the right way to achieve safety. This whole movement is about rightly saying, we need to take a look at these budgets and figure out whether it reflects the right priorities. For too long, the status quo thinking has been, you get more safety by putting more cops on the street. Well, that's wrong.
So in 2019, bragging on how her prosecution plan was adopted and praised by the Obama administration. And now she's at a point where we need to defund the police. If you think putting more police on the streets will decrease crime, that's wrong thinking, really. So that means, VP Harris, if you're out on some event, we really don't need to put Secret Service agents around you. Is that what you want to say? Of course you don't. And I want her protected. I want all those who are in the race protected as they need the protection. But here she is waffling back and forth in various niches, trying to grab this vote and that vote and hoping you don't hear the thing that might counter the decision you made to give her a vote. And here comes to the savior to help her out, Michigan Governor Whitmer.
And let's be clear, Kamala Harris has more experience than the Trump-Vance ticket combined. Between the two of those dudes, they only have 5.5 years, and it's not public service, it's self-service that they're in the business of. So our vice president is tough. She's experienced and she is ready, and she knows the job is not finished. That's why she's going to keep fighting for policies that make it easier for us to raise families. She'll keep fighting to lower costs and create more good-paying jobs. She'll keep fighting to protect our fundamental freedoms. And she will get it done because that's who she is.
Yay! No boo-boo. It's all wrong. She's already reversed herself on fracking because she needs Pennsylvania. And when it comes to the economics, Bidenomics, she was with him every step of the way, praising it, talking about how great it was. And now she's, according to Gretchen Whitmer, doing everything she can to make things better for you in your life. Everything laid out by Whitmer is adding to the lies, the facade. It's like taking a crack in the wall and putting plaster on it and saying the wall is fixed. No, the crack is hidden. We have major Democrat donors, of course, already flocking to Kamala, and they say the main reason is because she's not Joe Biden. And that's the biggest thing they can say in the campaign that is absolutely true. The old man in the campaign right now is Donald Trump. But it was never a matter of actual age with Biden. It was mental ability, stability, and capability. Biden had none of those. Of course, yesterday he's out campaigning that we need to overthrow the U.S. Supreme Court. We need to redo it. You know, that's exactly what Nicolas Maduro down in Venezuela has decided he's going to do. He's going to dramatically change the Supreme Court in Venezuela now that he won re-election. And he's already cut ties with numerous other countries in his area because they are questioning, did he really win? Coming up, more today from the acting Secret Service director, specifically conspiracy theories. And plus, before the hour is over, despite Gretchen Whitmer telling you that Kamala Harris knows how to fix the economy and make things better for all of you, there's a new CNN survey that shows just how much Americans are suffering. This applies especially to you, whether you have a house or you want a house, or maybe you think you want to get out of the house. Lock and load. Ready on the right.
You are listening to Larry Connors, USA.
Question: do you know what vermiculite is? It is an insulation in the attics of hundreds of thousands of homes and public buildings. Looks like kitty litter, but often contains asbestos. Wellington Environmental is the largest company in the Midwest that can remove that hazard for you. Wellington has what is called the General, a powerful industrial vacuum that can suck vermiculite out of the attic. Hang on, there's something else you should know. Many of you might qualify for up to a $4,000 rebate. You should at least contact Wellington to see if you qualify. And here's something else. Wellington arrives at the time they give you, not sometime within 4 hours. 314-644-4930. 644-4930. WellingtonSTL.com. WellingtonSTL.com. Wellington Environmental. Your world. Cleaner, better, safer. Be well with Wellington.
Talk radio made in St. Louis.
Very excited for what you guys are doing for the St. Louis community.
For St. Louis. Relevant local talk.
Saying what we are thinking.
This is News Talk STL.
No, you guys are awesome. I love you. And it's a tremendous honor to be on the station.
News, analysis, and opinion.
Thanks for us covering the local angle.
Come on, people. This is America.
We better open our eyes.
Really local, really good.
News Talk STL at 1019, 94.1 and newstalkstl.com.
I want you to know that McGuire Moving and Storage is silver certified, which means McGuire has a quality reputation helping older adults move local or long distance. And something else to know, Josh McGuire, president of McGuire Moving and Storage, is the only certified moving consultant in Missouri. I'll tell you, once you met Josh, you're going to know your move will be easy. And I fully endorse McGuire Moving and Storage. McGuireMoving.com.
My name is Todd Showalter, and I'm announcing The Right Mind Show is officially running Saturday nights at 5. I'll now open the floor for questions.
Is The Right Mind Show funny at all?
No comment. Next question. Yeah, you, different reporter with the same voice.
Your co-host is very cute.
Not a question. I've got time for one more.
Do you do any impressions on The Right Mind Show?
Yeah, absolutely. Here's Joe Biden getting out of bed.
The Right Mind Show with Todd Showalter. Saturday afternoons at 5 on News Talk STL.
Napoli Brothers Pizza and Pasta, now open in the district of Chesterfield Valley. Napoli has the only coal-fired pizza oven. That means an incredible taste you cannot get anywhere else. So enjoy a unique pizza at Napoli Brothers Pizza and Pasta in the district. And then walk a few doors down and enjoy premium cigars and drinks at Lit Cigar Lounge. There's a perfect way to end the evening. Napoli Pizza followed by Lit Cigar Lounge. A winning combination.
This is News Talk STL.
Boom, 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 boom. Gonna shoot you right down.
This is Larry Connors USA. Larry Connors USA.
Fox News has now obtained some text messages from local law enforcement that were given and sent out the day of the assassination attempt on our nation's 45th president. They seem to show the suspect was spotted much earlier than officials previously told us. Iowa Senator Chuck Grassley has a copy of the local snipers group chat and forwarded it out. Look at this. At 4:26, one of the snipers texted, "Someone followed our lead and snuck in and parked by our cars, just so you know. I'm just letting you know because you see me go out with my rifle and put it on my car, so he knows you guys are up there." Then at 5:38 p.m., a sniper sent a photo of the gunman lurking around the agent's building, or the AGR building, rather, and texted, "I did see him with a rangefinder looking towards stage. FYI, if you want to notify SS," meaning Secret Service, "snipers to look out, I lost sight of him."
These were text messages going back and forth between various police officials, local and our state, and apparently none of them were also going to the Secret Service. There was a complete communications failure on the day that Trump was almost assassinated, and I remind you, a father of two was killed, a Trump supporter, and 2 others wounded. Simply showed up to support their political candidate, and they were also shot. Now, some of the testimony coming out today by the acting director of the Secret Service, Ronald Rhodes Jr., seems to be pointing out, saying basically a lot of the fault and the flaws and the failures also lie with some part, most, with local authorities. They're still trying to work out some details on some of his testimony today to understand exactly what's clear. He and the FBI deputy director were being questioned today in a Senate committee looking over the assassination attempt. But in his opening statement, the acting director made it very clear that this was also on the hands of the Secret Service.
A critical part of the Secret Service mission is protecting our nation's current and former government leaders. The attempted assassination of former President Donald J. Trump on Saturday, July 13th, 2024, in Butler, Pennsylvania, was a failure on multiple levels. Before I begin, though, I want to commend the heroic actions of the men and women of the United States Secret Service on July 13th. Our special agents shielded the former president with their bodies while shots were still being fired, selflessly willing to make the ultimate sacrifice without hesitation. I am extremely proud of these actions and those taken by the counter-sniper team to neutralize the threat that prevented further loss of life. And I applaud the actions of our tactical teams that responded so quickly.
And to that point, I stated to you yesterday, former President Trump also singled out the agents that were around him, doing what they could to protect him. He praised each of them, including the woman that's huddled up against his body. She's a short woman. She barely reaches to his shoulders with her head, but she's clutching to him as they go down the steps. Now, again, when I criticize that agent, I'm not criticizing her and her height challenge against Trump. I'm not criticizing what she did. I'm criticizing the fact that a woman of that size was assigned to be one of the ones to get to Trump immediately if he needed help. You need bigger people to cover the target. That's what she was assigned to do. So Trump praised her. He said she was willing to take a shot for me, as were the others who were still around Trump as they were coming down the stairs. They were all exposed, and I think there's something that needs to be directly addressed, that why they did not immediately throw a blanket over all of them to protect them from any additional shots, and certainly the president, as he would be in the sights of a gunman, but pop Kevlar umbrellas, basically, and shield him. The closest they came to that was one agent had his hand on top of Trump's head. If the shooter was aiming at the top of his head, he would hit the agent's hand, but it would have gone on into the skull of the president. So they have to look at that as well when they come to making changes. And when it comes to changes, the acting director, Ronald Rowe, said, yes, we do need changes.
It is clear to me that other protective enhancements could have strengthened our security at the Butler event. As such, I have directed the expanded use of unmanned aerial systems at protective sites to help detect threats on roofs and other elevated threats. I've also directed resources to facilitate our protective site communications, particularly our communications with our state and local partners. In addition, I have instructed the asset request for Secret Service protective details to be approved expeditiously and have ordered the maximum use of requested personnel at protective sites to address this heightened security environment. I've heard your calls for accountability, and I take them very seriously. And given the magnitude of this failure, the Secret Service's Office of Professional Responsibility is reviewing the actions and decision-making of Secret Service personnel in the lead-up to and on the day of the attack. If this investigation reveals that Secret Service employees violated agency protocols, those employees will be held accountable to our disciplinary process.
Good. Somebody's going to be held accountable at some point, and it should be transparent and made public. You don't need the name for the general public, but we do need to know exactly who and what they failed to do. Now, there are a lot of folks out there that have conspiracy theories, and a question was raised earlier, was there more than one gunman? FBI Director Wray said, to my knowledge, there wasn't. The same comes from the acting Secret Service director, but he says we know that these theories are out there and they're going to continue to circulate until we are fully transparent with the public.
That based on what I know right now, neither the Secret Service counter-sniper teams nor members of the former president's security detail had any knowledge that there was a man on the roof of the AGR building with a firearm. It is my understanding those personnel were not aware the assailant had a firearm until they heard gunshots. Prior to that, they were operating with the knowledge that local law enforcement was working an issue of a suspicious individual prior to the shots being fired. I regret that information was not passed to Congress and the public sooner with greater frequency. And I fear this lack of information has given rise to multiple false and dangerous conspiracy theories about what took place that day. And I want to debunk these theories. Let me address one conspiracy directly. The Secret Service counter-sniper neutralized the assailant within seconds after the assailant fired his weapon. That counter-sniper had full discretion to use deadly force to stop an attacker and did not need to seek authorization to fire.
Does that answer your conspiracy theories and others? I doubt that's going to fully answer them. But we also recognize that the investigation is going to take more time, more uncovering, more details. And even admitting today, they don't know how the gunman got the rifle on the roof anyway. What broke down that needs to be fixed? Coming up, a CNN survey of those who want to buy a home, they really want to, but Bidenomics makes it impossible.
You can connect with Larry on Twitter at Larry Connors USA.
John Beal knows that new roofing companies can look big and trustworthy on the internet, but the fact is 96% of new roofing companies go out of business within the first 5 years. John Beal has a reputation for excellence, reliability, plus lowest cost, best roof, best guarantee. Those here today, gone tomorrow roofers, they can't match John Beal. For home or business, trust my friend John. 1-800-NEW-ROOF. 1-800-NEW-ROOF.
No matter how large or small your digging project may be, no matter how urban or rural, you must always call 811 before any digging project. 811 is our national one-call number, alerting your local utility companies to come out and mark any lines they have near your dig site. So before you do this or this, make sure you do this. For digging projects big or small, make the call to 811, brought to you by Common Ground Alliance.
Loyalty means a lot at J. Ackerman Toyota. That's why during COVID, Ackerman refused to charge over sticker price, while others did. Ackerman stayed true to their customers, selling at or below manufacturer-suggested prices. Ackerman will get you what you want, and the service department has the same spirit. You come first. And thank you for making Ackerman Toyota number one in 2023. Ackerman Toyota, AckermanToyota.com. Ackerman Toyota for life.
The United States Deputy Sheriff's Association is a national nonprofit and the largest non-governmental provider of services to law enforcement. The USDSA assists city, county, state, and federal agencies with free safety equipment donations and officer survival training, along with cash donations to families of law enforcement officers who perished in the line of duty, a citizen awareness program, and more. For more information on United States Deputy Sheriff's Association, please visit usdeputy.org.
If you like premium cigars and spirits, take my advice. Check out Lit Cigar Lounge in Chesterfield. The Lit Cigar owners just got back from a major convention in Vegas, and now every day, Lit is getting shipments of special cigars that will certainly amaze you. Check the Lit Cigar Facebook, staying on top of special events. Also, Lit can host a private event for you, your friends, your business. LitSTL.com. LitSTL.com. Lit Cigar Lounge in Chesterfield.
This is News Talk STL.
Because you know I'm all about that bass, no trouble. I'm all about that bass, no trouble. I'm all about that bass, no trouble. I'm all about that bass, bass.
This is Larry Connors USA. Larry Connors USA.
This is such a frustrating housing market for the millions of Americans who are on the outside looking in, right? They want to buy, but they just can't. Not with these prices, not with these mortgage rates. And some of them, they're throwing in the towel, they're walking away. So this brand new CNN poll shows that 86% of U.S. renters would like to buy, but they can't. 86%, just 13% say they could afford it, but they're choosing not to. Now, to take this a step further, when you just look at the ones who can't afford it, only 46% say it's either very or somewhat likely that eventually they'll be able to buy. More than half, 54% say it's not too likely or not at all likely that they'll ever be able to buy. That really speaks to a lot of pessimism here about the American dream, how it feels like it's out of reach. Politically, you can see how this would be an issue for the party in power. And economically, it's a problem too because, look, home ownership remains the ticket to wealth generation. So this is just widening the gap between the haves and the have-not.
And Kamala Harris, as vice president, was part of everything that has created the current situation. When Donald Trump was in office, inflation was lower and wages were higher. And then under Biden, inflation went up to almost plus 9%. And then now it's back down again, but the wages have not risen. And so American workers are still not earning and staying ahead of inflation. So how can you possibly plan to buy a home? If you're going to base it on the premise that 25% of our income will go for the housing, well, that's a great number and a number that is good to live by, but can you really take care of everything else with what's left over? And nowadays, can you even get by with 25%? But Harris, I'm going to give you an analogy in a moment that's going to go much farther than what Senator Kennedy did when he appeared on Fox Business News with Neil Cavuto. And Senator Kennedy described VP Harris in these terms.
I don't care about a race.
I care about her
Then why call her a ding-dong?
And I'm telling you what the polling shows. The polling shows. And it does. And I'll be glad to sit down with you and walk you through the polls.
Please do, because I never know when it's constructive to call people names, Senator. On the left or the right. But
I'm sorry if it hurts your feelings, but let me say it again.
Senator, you keep bringing it back to my feelings. My feelings matter a little. All I'm telling you is if you think you can gain this November calling people names, I don't know how far that goes, left or right, but we'll see. It's still early, to your point.
Your feelings seem to me like they matter to you a lot, Neil, and I'm trying to be objective here. Let me say it again.
Are you really being objective, Senator? I just think you've got a bash-a-thon, a name calling at her. If you call that being objective, I don't know. But, Senator, I do want to thank you for coming.
Well, thank you for having me, Neil. I hope you have a better day.
Yeah, so do I. Hope you have a better day.
Senator Kennedy is not going to back down. He called Kamala a ding-dong. Now, at Cavuto's point, name-calling is not going to win you anything. Well, name-calling sticks with people, and sometimes it does. I'm not saying that's the correct and best way to go about it, but so be it. But I have an analogy that goes beyond ding-dong. Kamala, with all of her changing views and lies and deception, I equate closer to a snake. Here she is going to the election, and she's already flip-flopped on 4 major issues she's been far before. Take away your assault rifles, although we don't know what that is. No more fracking. She's flip-flopped on that. And the only thing she's really sticking to is abortion. So getting rid of all the things that might harm her, it's a snake shedding its skin. It sheds the skin, but it is still a snake. And then you get people like Michael Moore, Hollywood elitist producer, says he's hyping Kamala, saying this country is female. White men, which he is one, white men will be shown the door, and he's all about it. All those white men should be shown the door. That include you, Michael Moore. And then you've got a TikTok influencer, part of the White Women for Kamala. Yeah, White Women for Kamala. And she's telling viewers, never correct black women. Put our listening ears on. You should never correct a black woman. Now, then against that backdrop, you've got a panel of black male voters were asked during MSNBC Roundtable about how much they support Trump or Kamala. And one participant said, black people are feeling pressure to support Harris regardless of her policies. Again, just like the white women for Harris say, never correct a black woman, put our listening ears on. And Michael claiming white men will be shown the door, black men, black people in general are being pressured to support her because of color, not her policies. Does that make any sense? It does not. I'd stated when Obama was running, I said, if you voted for Obama simply because of his color, you were wrong. Look at his policies, what he's proposing. And I also said in the same breath, if you voted against Obama because of his color, you were wrong. I'll say the same thing about Kamala. If you're voting against her because she's black, you're wrong. If you're voting against her because she's a woman, you're wrong. But she's got enough policy issues dangling around her neck that there are numerous issues that can drag her down. The key is, will Trump and team be able to do it? Because she is not only a snake, she's a chameleon. She will constantly be changing to adapt to fit the situation that she's suddenly thrust into. But she's going to reach a point where she's caged and can't run and turn any longer, because she reaches a point that if I turn again, I'm going to lose this block of voters. And who are her block of voters right now? Hollywood elites. How much do they have in common with you? That is the block. It's not a black vote, a black block, because many of them are turning away from her. Some have said, I don't like Trump either, and I may just sit the election out. Well, these are the very ones they were hoping Kamala being in as president would be drawn back to the party. So where is her voting block other than regressives, or regressive progressives? They have nothing in common with those who are trying to buy a home, trying to live their life, trying to raise their family. They have nothing in common with you. And they're all about everyone will be at the same place at the same time. We'll all be equal. We all get an equal opportunity. I had the chance to be president. I did. I was president of my library club in the 3rd grade. I could have taken that and used it as a springboard to the president of the U.S. But I wasn't qualified and had no interest. Larry, you couldn't have been president. Well, I dare say that I can. How can you say I couldn't? In this nation, you have the opportunity. You're going to have a ground base. You're going to have desire. You're going to have money. And you're going to have people that will support you. And in fact, a story I have not shared often, when a local TV station decided to fire me, and I still insist on false pretenses, when they decided to fire me, I was immediately called by members of the Republican Party, asked if I would run for a particular office, if not that one, another one. And I chose not to. At one time, I thought I might want to be a politician. Then I got in and saw it up close. No, I think I'd rather be on the sidelines reporting about it, because I can't sell myself out as some I have seen do. I don't want to be a snake shedding my skin, because I'm still going to be a snake. Harris, as a presidential candidate, is tied to Joe Biden. She voted with him. She supported him, lied to you about his health, and did everything as border czar to make our nation unsafe. Texas Senator Ted Cruz.
It is every damn day. Every day, someone is being shot. Every day, a woman is being raped. Every day, a child is being assaulted by illegal immigrants that Joe Biden and Kamala Harris have released. And every one of our families are at greater jeopardy because they keep releasing violent criminals into our communities. And I'm going to say something that sounds harsh, but Kamala Harris, Joe Biden, my opponent, Colin Allred, they do not care. Now, why do I say that? Because if they cared, they would change the policies that are making this happen. They would stop today releasing another illegal who's going to kill someone tomorrow. And they keep doing it day after day after day. So when someone is killed, when a child is assaulted, they say, I care. I'm so sorry about it. But no, they don't if they keep recreating the problem.
I fully agree with Senator Ted Cruz. Now, I dissed on Kamala earlier. I'm not going to step aside and ignore a story that is facing Trump and his campaign. Now, this comes from The Hill. It is a left-leaning publication. But I'm going to share with you what they're stating and see if you side with them or you immediately distrust it because it's The Hill. They're stating Republican lawmakers are divided over whether former President Trump should ditch his running mate, J.D. Vance, Senator, Republican, Ohio. They say he's become a magnet for controversy and negative press coverage since Trump tapped him for the role earlier this year. You know what that amounts to? Because he was talking about, a a rather childish cat woman. A woman goes around posing as a cat, and he made some remark because she can't have a child. And everybody said, oh, so he's against people having children or mocking them? No, that's not at all. But as usual, it's taken out of context. And, of course, the left is going to put in their spin cycle and continue to ramp it up. But the Hill article continues. Some Republican senators think Trump should have picked a woman or a person of color to help broaden his appeal beyond the hardcore base of supporters. Hint, hint, white men. Well, tell me this. Why are so many minority voters, men and women, moving to Trump's campaign and supporting him? I did agree. I would have preferred South Carolina Senator Tim Scott. I thought he would have added more to the ticket. But he went with J.D. Vance. He's not going to ditch him, especially because the Democrats are complaining, or even some Republicans are complaining. All right, so you didn't get the candidate you wanted to be VP. They're suggesting, by the way, in the Hill, did Trump ignore professional advisors and listen instead to his son, Donald Jr., and Tucker Carlson in picking Vance? One Republican senator, of course not being named, stated, I would assume he's not real happy that Vance is getting so much negative publicity. He said, I don't think Trump likes any discomfort. He can create discomfort himself, but he doesn't like discomfort coming in, and J.D. is struggling. I would assume he's not real happy. Now, to its credit, the Hill also says others continue defending the pick, saying Vance can help Republicans in key states in the Midwest. Keep in mind, Vance is also married to a woman of Indian origin, not American Indian. I've got to let you know what's happening on the world stage in the Middle East. Israel had said it would strike out against the Hezbollah terrorists that launched rockets into their nation last weekend and killing a dozen children. So they now say we did carry out a strike on a Hezbollah stronghold in southern Beirut earlier this morning. They gave a heads up to the U.S. prior to doing it. Said we did it because Hezbollah crossed the red line. They directly sent missiles in that killed children. And I have yet to hear any of the leftists denounce Hezbollah terrorists for doing that, hitting a playground, intentionally or unintentionally. You see the difference between that and the Hamas issue? Right. Remember our pledge, one nation under God.
You can follow Larry on Larry Connors USA Facebook. Larry Connors USA Facebook. This is Larry Connors USA. Larry Connors USA.